Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Zechariah chapter 5. We're going to continue on. This is a post Babylon exile prophecy centering around really re-establishing the nation of Israel after its horrible and brutal exile from the land because of their sin. Because of their sin. So, um, let's get to it. So we left off. We're gonna get to chapter 5, and again, as I said, this Zechariah almost to me could be considered kind of a part two to Ezekiel's prophecy. And if you go back and read Ezekiel, we went through Ezekiel, and especially toward the end, you saw the prophecies of the restoration of Israel. You saw the prophecies of God's future plan and purpose. Them coming back to the land, inhabiting the land, and especially through the 1,000-year reign. And then the last nine or 10 chapters of Ezekiel was dedicated to restoring the temple. And at the time, I think when I was going through, I thought that, and I kind of was puzzled, right? That was that prophecy at the time, a millennial reign temple. And I'm convinced now that it is doing this post uh, exile time. And so the prophecies are similar to me. The imagery, the revelation, the heavenly creatures that we see, and so a lot of the prophecies we have to keep in contact that they are strengthening. They are messages to the leadership to restore and rebuild the land after it laid waste for 70 years. So, and one of the chapters, chapter 3, I believe we saw Joshua the priest, the high priest, and how he was cleansed from his sins, and he was cleansed for priestly duties. He was, and now Zerubbabel was um, exhorted to be strengthened for his leadership. And at the end of that chapter, he talked about the two olive trees, uh, and we saw that the two olive trees were two anointed ones. In verse 14, he says, these are the two anointed ones. And we briefly stopped over in Revelation chapter 11. And Revelation said that these are the two anointed ones. These are the two olive trees who stand before the Lord of the whole earth. And if you read chapter 11 in Revelation, they have a very powerful ministry where, again, it's powerful ministry. All right. So chapter 5, he says, I looked up again and I saw a flying scroll. He says, what do you see? He asked me. I see a flying scroll. I replied, 30 feet long and 15 feet wide. Now, if you ever see what a scroll, then that's how they when they would write the Old Testament, old time writings, they wrote on dried out papyrus plants, and they would use for ink, not our kind of ink, but so in a lot of ways they would come up with ink, like not dust, but soot maybe that they would mix with water. And forgive me if I'm giving the wrong kind of characteristics of that, but that's kind of the ink, right? How they use the ink. So so old time writings were very flimsy, and especially when it comes to the New Testament. One of the things that we have is that we don't have any of the, that's one of the reasons why we don't have any of the original writings, but what we do have is copies upon copies upon copies upon copies, because the writings material were very flimsy. Didn't take they certainly could not survive a long periods of time. So now he sees this long scroll now, 30 feet long. That's a lot of writing. So if you think about 30 feet, right? You think about 30 feet and then 15 feet wide. You can just can imagine how long it is. And then 15 feet wide. And then what they would do is they would stretch it out. Now, remember when Jesus was given the scroll to read, he had to unroll it. Now, it wasn't just long here, but he had to unroll it. And then he found where they also would write on columns. So once they unscroll, it'd be like columns, 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 not necessarily right to left, but left to right, however they would read in the Hebrew. Verse 3 says, "Then he said to me, this is the curse." Now, this is what this scroll is. It's 30 feet long curse and 15 wide. Then he said to me, "This is the curse that is going out over the whole land. For every thief will be removed according to what is written on one side, and everyone who swears falsely will be removed according to what is written on the other side." Now, I don't know why it just picks out kind of like these two sins, right? Being the thief and then swearing falsely. Okay. Then he says, "And I will send it out. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts. And it will enter the house of the thief and the house of the one who swears falsely by my name. And it will stay inside his house and destroy it along with its timbers and stones." Okay. And like I say, I don't know why God only focused on those two sins, but for sure in this context, those two sins is what that scroll is about. Verse 5, "Then the angel who was speaking with me came forward and told me, look up and look up and see what this is that is approaching." So I asked, "What is it?" And he responded, "It's a measuring basket that is approaching." And he continued, "This is the iniquity of all the land." Now notice he said a measuring basket, and then he said, "This is this," and he said to me, "This is their iniquity in all the land." So now he's talking about all the iniquity, what? In all the land. Verse 7, "Then a lead cover was lifted, and there was a woman sitting inside the basket. This is wickedness," he said. So the image of this woman is wickedness, he said. He shoved her down into the basket and pushed the lead weight over its opening. Then I looked up and saw two women approaching with the wind in their wings. Their wings were like those of a stork, and they lifted up the basket between the earth and the sky. So I asked the angel who was speaking with me, "Where are they taking the basket?" And he says, to build a shrine for the land of Shinar, he told me. And when that is ready, the basket will be placed there on the pedestal. Now, again, let me just say, I don't always know what these things often means. The land of Shinar goes back to the Tower of Babel. I'm so sorry, right? So that's kind of what when and that's sort of the language here that is used. And again, so I'm not particularly understanding what it is that Zechariah is seeing, other than okay, that is the vision there. Okay. Chapter 6, verse 1 says, "Then I looked up again and saw 4 chariots coming from between 2 mountains. And the mountains were made of bronze. And the first chariot had a red horse, and the second chariot a black horse, and the third chariot a white horse, and the fourth chariot a dapple horse, all strong horses. So I inquired of the angel who was speaking with me, "What are these, my Lord?" Then the angel told me, "These are the four spirits of heaven going out after presenting themselves to the Lord of the whole earth." Now again, you see this phrase, the Lord of the whole earth. So these four angels are the four spirits. Okay, so again, we're looking at here this imagery, this vision, this revelation. Um, I don't know what the actual spirits would look like. But notice he said these are the four spirits of heaven going out after presenting themselves to the Lord of the whole earth. Now we've seen this before. We see it in the book of Job, where the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and then Satan came among them. We also saw this in the book of Kings, where Ahab, all of the hosts were standing before God, and God may ask this question: who would go out to entice Ahab to go out to war? The idea was to go out to war for his destruction. And one spirit came and said one thing, another spirit said another thing. And then finally a lion spirit came and said, "I'll go." And he says, "What will you do?" He said, "I'll be a lion spirit and his prophets." And then the Lord said, "Go, you will prevail." So keep this in mind, that there are a lot of things we don't know. There are a lot of things we don't have privy to. Okay, we don't have privy to. Okay, and one of the I think common threads for us to understand is that for the most part, what God is revealing to us really is for what we need here in this time. So that's why we don't have a lot of detail about what's going on in heaven. We don't, well, what is a day like in heaven, or a time like in heaven? Well, we don't have a lot of information on that, right? We just don't. So when we get these glimpses here, and in this case, that it's like, wow, this is really, really out there. Okay, this kind of revelation here. So we see that these four spirits, and by the way, and all of this is again what's going on earth. In other words, remember the prophecy, the vision is primarily for what's going on earth. It is not for us to know what is going on in heaven. So whenever you see these people who claim to go, that they go to heaven, let me tell you one reason why in every single case I don't believe that they went to heaven. And it's not that, of course, it's not that I don't think that they can go to heaven. It's not that I don't think that God in his sovereignty can do as he pleases. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you look at the pattern of what these prophecies are here, they always point to God's plan and purpose here on earth. So we don't have, okay, like, that, what is, like I say, what are loved ones doing? Are they having spiritual yoga all day? And so one of the reasons why I don't believe that all these people that claim, and they write books all the time, I went to heaven, I went to hell, I do not believe not one single of them. Not one of them. You know why? The very fact that they wrote a book, and the very fact that, notice, we're getting a glimpse here. Notice that we're just getting a glimpse. And yet these so-called people get enough information that they write detailed books. That's the very first telltale sign that it's made up. The more detail they give, tells me right there, yeah, y'all just making this up. And they do. And if you stop and think about it, if I'm going to make up a tale about going to hell, very easy, isn't it? Hell is bad, right? If I'm going to go to heaven, heaven is good, right? It's not like you're going to, I went to the ghetto part of heaven, anyway. So verse 5 again, the angel told me, these are the four spirits of heaven going out after presenting themselves for the Lord of the whole earth. And the one with the black horse is going to the land of the north. The white horse is going after them, while the white horses are going after them. But the dapple horses are going to the land of the south. As the strong horse went out, they went out to patrol the earth. And the Lord said, go patrol the earth. So they patrolled the earth. Then he summoned me, saying, see, those going to the land of the north have pacified my spirit in the northern land. Now again, you see this statement here. What does God mean that he pacified his spirit? Don't know. Okay. All right, verse 9. Now sometimes the land of the north, however, as he's speaking to them from Jerusalem, oftentimes would use in common sometimes talk about the land like Babylon and then the land of the south, Assyria, but I'm not necessarily saying that that's what he means here. Verse 9 says, the word of the Lord came to me, take an offering from the exiles, from Heldai, Tobijah, and Jedediah, who have arrived from Babylon, and go the same day to the house of Josiah, son of Zephaniah. Take silver and gold, make crowns, and place them on the head of Joshua, the son of Jehozadak, that's the priest, the high priest, okay? And you are to tell him, this is what the Lord of hosts says. Here is a man whose name is Branch. He will branch out from his place and build the Lord's temple. Yes, he will build the Lord's temple. He will be clothed in splendor and will sit on his throne to rule. There will also be a priest on his throne, and there will be peaceful counsel between the two of them. And the crown will reside in the Lord's temple as a memorial to Heldai and Tobijah and Jedediah. It says, and Hen, son of Zephaniah. Or maybe Hen and Joshua is the same name. Okay. But, verse 15, the people who are far off will come and build the Lord's temple, and you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. He says this will happen when you fully obey the Lord your God. Now, I'm not lingering a lot here, only because I think a lot of the focus, remember, is on what God's plan and purpose for Jerusalem in the day when the exiles return to Jerusalem. Okay? When the exiles return to Jerusalem. And a lot of the prophecy here, although, as I said, there is what's called a near fulfillment, and then there is a far fulfillment. We saw one of the far fulfillments. That's some of the near fulfillment prophecies center around specifically the returning Israelites to the desolate land, restore the land, restore the temple, restore Jerusalem. And then the ultimate fulfillment will be during the millennial reign of Jesus. So, all right, guys, look, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to Repeated Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. And then I will see you in the next study.